the silence that felt wrong. The Galactic Council chamber was never quiet. Thousands of voices, dozens of species, and endless arguments filled the air every cycle. But today something was different. The decision had already been made. Earth was no longer welcome. The Council's central screen glowed as the final ruling appeared in bright symbols. Humanity was officially removed from the Galactic Alliance. Trade rights were revoked. Shared systems were locked. Human access codes were erased in seconds. Many expected shouting. Some expected threats. A few even hoped for war. But Earth said nothing. Minutes passed. Then hours. No emergency signals came from human space. No angry broadcasts. No fleets moved toward Council territory. Human warships remained in their docks. Satellites stayed quiet. The silence felt wrong. Councillor Trelvik of the Varen Empire tapped his claws on the crystal table. "Have the humans responded?" he asked. "No, Councillor," an aide replied. "All diplomatic channels are closed. Earth has gone completely dark." A low murmur spread across the chamber. Some laughed. "They are afraid," one delegate said. "They know they cannot fight us all." Another nodded. "Humans always talk big. This silence proves they were never strong." The Council recorded the event as a success. Earth was removed without conflict. No blood was spilled. No fleets were lost. It was considered a clean victory. But beyond the chamber, watchers began to notice small things. Human cargo ships stopped arriving. Trade stations that depended on human logistics began reporting delays. Navigation updates stopped coming through. Automated systems still worked, but only barely. On Earth, the reaction was calm. President Alina Reyes stood in a quiet room deep beneath the planet's surface. Around her were generals, scientists, engineers, and advisors. No one shouted. No one panicked. "They cut us off," one advisor said. "Yes," Reyes replied. "As expected." A general asked, "Do we respond?" Reyes shook her head. "No messages. No speeches. No threats." Someone frowned. "The galaxy will think we accepted this." Reyes looked around the room. Her voice was steady. "Let them think whatever they want." Behind reinforced walls, systems activated silently. Long-prepared plans moved forward without alarms or announcements. Codes written decades earlier unlocked deeper layers of control. Humanity did not prepare for war. They prepared for absence. Across the galaxy, the first signs appeared as confusion, not danger. A medical world in the Orlan sector reported failures in life support monitoring. Engineers blamed local errors. On a trade hub near the core, docking schedules broke down when routing software stopped updating. "These are human systems," technicians said. "But they should still be working." They were working. Just no longer improving. No longer adapting. Back in the council chamber, Councillor Trelvik reviewed the reports with irritation. "Minor issues," he said. "Nothing serious." Yet unease crept in. Humanity had built much of the Alliance's infrastructure. Not because they were ordered to, but because they were good at it. They fixed problems others ignored. They connected systems no one else could understand. And now they were gone. Still, no human ship crossed a border. No human voice spoke in anger. Weeks passed. A junior analyst finally spoke during a closed session. "Counselors, the humans are not failing. They are leaving." The chamber fell silent. "What do you mean?" someone asked. "They are withdrawing everything," the analyst said. "Support, updates, maintenance. All human involvement is ending by design. Not suddenly, carefully." The idea was dismissed. "They would never dare punish the entire galaxy," a delegate said. But Earth never announced punishment. That was the worst part. On a distant observation station, an alien commander watched old footage of humans working alongside other species. "Calm, focused, helpful." "Why don't they fight?" the commander asked quietly. Another officer answered, "Maybe because they don't need to." Back on Earth, President Reyes looked at a single report on her screen. It showed timelines, projections, and quiet consequences spreading outward like slow waves. "Any changes?" she asked. "No," an aide replied. "The galaxy still believes we are weak." Reyes nodded once. "Good." She stood and looked toward the surface, where Earth turned peacefully beneath the stars. Humanity had been removed without war. Without farewell. Without conflict. But silence, when chosen, was not surrender. It was a warning the galaxy did not yet understand. And when they finally did, it would already be too late. The price of ignoring humans. At first, the galaxy adjusted. Delays happened before. System errors were common. The council assured everyone that the absence of humans would cause only temporary discomfort. But discomfort does not stay small when it spreads. On the mining world Keshtar, or shipments stopped leaving orbit on time. Automated traffic systems failed to sync. Dockmasters argued with screens that refused to respond. Reboot everything, they said. The systems rebooted. They came back weaker. On a medical station near the inner rings, doctors noticed something worse. Diagnostic AI still worked, but they stopped learning. Treatments that once adapted to new conditions became slow and outdated. Patients survived, but barely. Engineers checked the source code. Every advanced module traced back to one origin: human design. Across dozens of worlds, the same pattern appeared. Nothing exploded. Nothing collapsed overnight. Instead, everything slowly lost efficiency like a machine running without oil. And still, no message from Earth. In the council chamber, concern finally replaced pride. Councillor Trelvik reviewed another report. Trade output is down 12%, he said. Energy stability is weakening in 3 sectors. Another councillor waved it away. These systems belong to us now. We will manage. A technical advisor hesitated. With respect, we don't fully understand them. Silence followed. That truth had been ignored for too long. Humanity never ruled the Alliance. They never demanded control. They simply solved problems. Over time, everyone relied on those solutions without learning how they worked. Now the teachers were gone. On Earth, the mood remained calm. President Reyes walked through a vast underground facility. Screens showed live data from human colonies and independent networks. The galaxy beyond was monitored, but untouched. A scientist spoke quietly. Withdrawal is proceeding as planned. No active interference. Any direct harm? Reyes asked. No, the scientist replied. Only natural outcomes. Reyes nodded. Then continue. Humanity did not sabotage anything. They activated nothing hostile. They only allowed agreements to expire and permissions to close. Every system returned to its original owners. And the owners were not ready. In the Outer Alliance, a small defense fleet drifted during a routine patrol. Its navigation AI stopped updating starpath corrections. The ships survived, but fuel use increased. Stress on engines grew. Command blamed the crew. The crew blamed the machines. No one blamed the missing humans. Weeks later, panic began to whisper through private channels. A trade prince lost 3 shipments due to miscalculated jumps. A border world suffered rolling blackouts. A research station abandoned decades of data because its storage algorithms degraded. One by one, quiet pillars cracked. An independent analyst published a report titled, Human Absence Correlation. It was banned within hours. The council did not want fear. But fear found its way through experience. On a mid-level colony, an alien governor finally said what many thought. We removed the humans, she said. But we removed the hands holding everything together. Her words spread. Black market traders spoke of hidden clauses in human tech contracts. Time-limited support. Adaptive learning keys. None were secret, but no one believed humans would ever leave. After all, humans always stayed. Until they didn't. A small protest broke out near a council world. Citizens demanded negotiations with Earth. Council security dispersed them quickly. Still, the idea had been planted. Why hadn't humans protested? Why hadn't they begged? Why hadn't they fought? A veteran military commander reviewed past encounters with humanity. Humans were aggressive when cornered, but patient when planning. That silence, he said to his aide, is not weakness. Back on Earth, Reyes watched a projection of galactic systems dimming slowly, not collapsing, just aging. Any response requests? She asked. Yes, the aide replied. Unofficial ones. Traders, governors, even some council staff. Reyes considered it, then shook her head. We said no goodbye. The aide hesitated. They are starting to understand. Reyes looked at the stars. Understanding is not the same as respect. In the council chamber, Councillor Trelvik finally admitted doubt. What if this is their answer? He asked. No one replied. The galaxy had expected noise. They had prepared for war. They had planned for anger. They were not prepared for absence. And as systems weakened, patience thinned, and fear grew, one truth became impossible to deny. Humanity had not attacked the galaxy. They had simply stopped holding it together. And the price of ignoring humans was just beginning to be paid. Whispers of human fury. The galaxy was beginning to whisper. Not with shouts. Not with alarms. Not even with complaints. Just whispers. Quiet murmurs that traveled across communications channels, in dark corners of trade stations, and among the nervous eyes of alien commanders. "Have you noticed?" a junior officer asked on a patrol station near the rim. "Ships. They are still floating in orbit, but systems are failing. Not from attacks, just failing." Her superior looked at her with a frown. "Failing how?" "Life support, communications, energy grids. Slowly. It's everywhere. And it's all human-made." The officer's words caused silence in the control room. Not the calm, calculated silence of normal operations. This was a silence that carried unease. On Earth, no one celebrated. No one made announcements. Humanity had been quiet for months, observing, waiting. Every system the galaxy relied upon had been slowly withdrawn, not destroyed. It was deliberate, controlled, invisible. President Elena Reyes stood in her command chamber, surrounded by advisors. A holographic map showed every major human-built system in the galaxy. One by one, icons began to dim. Not disappearing, just fading. Functionality decreasing. Inefficiency creeping in where humans were no longer present. "Are they noticing?" an aide asked nervously. "They are," Reyes said calmly. "And that is exactly why we do nothing more. No interference. No threats. Just the consequences of their own dependence." Across the galaxy, fear began to grow. At first, it was small. Traders complaining about shipment delays, engineers blaming software bugs, governors frustrated at failing life support. But the whispers began to spread. Everywhere, people were asking the same question. Where are the humans? In secret, some alien fleets began scanning for Earth's warships. Not one was moving. Not one beam was fired. Humans had not left orbit, nor had they mobilized any defense. It was as if the planet itself had swallowed them whole. Yet humanity's presence was everywhere. On a small colony near the Orlan Expanse, an engineer tried to reboot a navigation system. It failed again. He muttered curses in his native tongue. We didn't need humans before, why now? But deep inside he knew. He didn't understand how, but everything that worked perfectly before depended on human design, human foresight, and human innovation. The colony would survive, but efficiency would collapse. Chaos would spread, not in an instant but slowly like a disease. At a Galactic Council meeting, delegates argued. "We cannot blame humans for this," one shouted. "We removed them." Another replied angrily, "No. They removed themselves. They allowed us to fail. Quietly. Intentionally." The word intentionally echoed through the chamber. On Earth nothing changed. Humanity observed the galaxy stumble, not with malice but with precision. They did not intervene when systems failed. They did not fix what had been intentionally left unfixed. Every error, every breakdown, was a reflection of how dependent the galaxy had become. It was terrifying. In the outer rim, a pirate captain cursed the humans silently. "We never feared them before. And now, I fear their silence more than any weapon." Even Counselor Trelvik began to feel the weight of human absence. Reports came in daily, minor accidents turning into major failures, supply shortages causing disputes, even small conflicts erupting into full-scale riots, all because of the subtle withdrawal of human systems. The galaxy began to understand something critical. Humans had never relied on brute force. They had relied on intelligence, structure, and adaptability. And now they had chosen to stop supporting it. Whispers became conversations. Conversations became panic. Fear spread like wildfire in every corner of the Alliance. And still, no human had acted aggressively. No fleet had fired a weapon. No message had been sent. And that, perhaps, was the most terrifying part. On a remote observation station near the Keshtar sector, a group of alien scientists reviewed patterns of failures across multiple systems. Their AI models predicted collapse in some areas within the next decade. One scientist, shaking, said, "They aren't attacking, they are teaching a lesson." "Teaching?" another asked. "Yes," the first replied. "Humans do not need to fight to destroy. They simply withdraw and watch." Back on Earth, President Reyes walked quietly through the observation deck. She looked at the stars with calm eyes as if reading a story written long ago. One of her aides asked, "Will they come for us?" Reyes smiled faintly, almost imperceptibly. "They already have. They just don't know it yet." In the distant reaches of the galaxy, fleets scrambled. Governors sent emergency messages. Traders bribed for routes. Scientists tried to reprogram failing systems. Everywhere the same pattern, human designs failing without humans present. The whispers became roars in private communication channels. Fear was no longer hidden. The galaxy realized that humanity had not disappeared. Humanity had chosen not to fight, and that choice was more powerful than any weapon. And in the quiet chambers of Earth, humanity's silent fury continued to grow, not as anger but as quiet, inevitable consequence. They had removed themselves from conflict, but they had not removed the galaxy from the consequences of relying on them. The galaxy had wanted war. Humanity gave them something much worse: silence. And the galaxy would never forget it. When the Council finally listened. Months passed since Earth withdrew from the Galactic Alliance. The subtle collapse of systems had become impossible to ignore. What had once been small inconveniences now threatened entire sectors. Trade routes faltered. Defense grids malfunctioned. Medical networks struggled to sustain life. For the first time, the Galactic Council understood that humanity's absence was not simple negligence. It was a choice. And that choice was proving more dangerous than any war could have been. Councillor Trelvik paced the chamber. His claws clicked against the polished crystal floor. "We underestimated them," he admitted for the first time. "They did not fight. They did not warn. And yet, look at the chaos we face now. Entire colonies are at risk because of their silence." Other councillors murmured in agreement. Some tried to defend the Council's earlier decision, but every argument fell flat. The evidence was overwhelming. Human designs, human systems, human support networks, removed quietly, were unraveling the galaxy. One ambitious delegate finally spoke up. "We must send envoys. We must negotiate. The humans are reasonable. Surely we can fix this peacefully." Trelvik shook his head. "Negotiation? After what we did? They do not need to negotiate. They only need to wait. And we are already paying the price." Across the galaxy, alien leaders began to feel the weight of that quiet price. Governors of outer colonies discovered entire cities trapped in gridlock as automated systems failed. Military stations scrambled to maintain order as defense arrays went offline. Traders argued over shipments that could no longer reach their destinations on time. Everywhere the same pattern: a gentle, creeping collapse caused by the absence of humans, not their aggression. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Alina Reyes watched reports flowing in from across the galaxy. Screens displayed simulations of cascading failures, from medical systems to energy grids to shipping networks. Human colonies remained safe. Infrastructure thrived. But the galaxy outside struggled, desperately trying to adapt to a problem they could not solve. An aide spoke softly, almost in awe. "They are finally noticing." "Yes," Reyes said calmly. "And they are learning too late." The Council decided to act. A delegation of the galaxy's most senior diplomats, scientists, and generals was assembled to travel to Earth. They expected confrontation. They expected anger. They expected speeches, demands, perhaps even threats. They would find none. As their ships entered Earth's orbit, sensors detected the planet was calm. Cities thrived. Fleets remained in their docks. Humans moved purposefully but without urgency. They did not rush to greet the delegates. They did not prepare defenses. They were simply there, watching, waiting. Inside a vast council chamber on Earth, President Reyes greeted the alien delegation. There were no guards at the doors, no intimidating weapons on display. Just a large, simple room with holographic maps and quiet observers. The lead diplomat, a tall, thin species with translucent skin, bowed. We did not understand," he admitted. "We thought removing you would weaken Earth. We did not realize this was your strength." Reyes did not smile. She simply nodded. "We do not define strength by how loudly we fight. Strength is the patience to let consequences unfold, the wisdom to act only when necessary." A younger delegate asked, Why did you not respond to our removal?" "We expected war. We expected threats. We expected nothing," Reyes said. "No war. No threats. No messages. Silence was enough. You wanted a galaxy without humans. We allowed you to have it. And now you see what happens without us." Murmurs filled the room. Councillors whispered to each other. For the first time they felt the weight of their mistake. They had thought humanity would panic, beg, fight, or cry. Humanity had done none of these things. A senior diplomat finally admitted it aloud. "We asked for battle. We asked for confrontation. You gave us consequences." "Yes," Reyes replied. "Consequences are far more effective than anger. We do not need to destroy you. You are destroying yourselves simply by depending on us and ignoring us." The room fell silent. Not a cold, uncomfortable silence, but the kind that carries realization, fear, respect, humility. Outside, alien ships monitored Earth's communications and trade systems. Every minor failure, every cascading problem was noted. Systems continued to falter. Humans remained calm. And slowly, the delegates understood that the galaxy had learned its first lesson about humanity. Patience, intelligence, and subtlety could be more dangerous than warships and weapons. Reyes turned to her team and said quietly, "Let them leave with this lesson. Let them understand that strength does not shout. It waits. And it acts only when necessary." The delegation departed Earth quietly, humbled. They carried back no threats, no complaints, no victories. Only the uncomfortable truth: humanity had not attacked. Humanity had not even moved. And yet, the galaxy was changed forever. As the ships vanished into the void, President Reyes looked toward the stars. The galaxy was learning, slowly, painfully, and too late. Humanity's silent fury had already begun. And the council, the traders, the governors, and every alien observer would carry that lesson for generations. No war had been declared. No weapons fired. But silence had become humanity's deadliest weapon. The galaxy without humans. The galaxy, once humming with the steady rhythm of human ingenuity, began to wobble. At first it was small things. Trade routes missed schedules. Mining shipments arrived late. Supply lines faltered. Governors complained about inefficiency, blaming outdated software, bad luck, or minor errors in planning. But small things accumulate. On Arconis Prime, a medical station lost access to human-designed life support algorithms. Machines worked, but slowly and unpredictably. Doctors struggled to stabilize patients, recalculating dosages manually. Some did not survive. Panic spread quietly among staff. In the Orlan Expanse, trading hubs discovered that automated docks refused to cooperate. Ships collided, cargo was lost, and weeks of coordination unraveled. Merchants argued. Fights broke out. The local council tried to enforce rules, but even they were struggling to keep up with systems they did not understand. Meanwhile, defense fleets experienced anomalies. Power cores fluctuated. Navigation arrays failed intermittently. Shields engaged and disengaged without warning. Not one human ship had fired a weapon, yet entire sectors felt unprotected. At the Galactic Council, panic had grown. Delegates spoke in urgent tones, but the room was thick with unease. "They were gone for months," one counselor said. "And now entire colonies are destabilizing. Our systems are collapsing because we relied too much on them." Another counselor replied, "We underestimated them. We thought their silence meant weakness." The first counselor's voice shook. Silence was never weakness. Silence was strategy. Back on Earth, President Elena Reyes observed the galaxy with calm eyes. Human colonies expanded steadily, free from interference. Trade between Earth and its own colonies was smooth, efficient, and growing stronger. Technology advanced quietly, without alarm. Earth itself seemed untouched by the turmoil elsewhere. In a private room, her aide asked, "Will they ever understand?" Reyes nodded slowly. "Some will. Some will not. The lesson is theirs to learn. We only provide the mirror." Across the galaxy, alien leaders began to realize the extent of their dependence. In some sectors, riots broke out as food distribution systems failed. In others, hospitals were forced to shut down when medical AI stopped adapting to new cases. Entire colonies struggled to survive. Some attempted to rebuild what humans had built. Engineers worked day and night, rewriting code and repairing infrastructure. But human systems were intricate, layered with decades of foresight and subtle efficiency. Attempts to replace them were slow and often ineffective. One engineer muttered, "We can rebuild some things, but not all. We never truly understood how they worked." Meanwhile, traders discovered that supply lines previously taken for granted now required weeks of manual oversight. Ships that had previously completed a cycle in days now took months to arrive. Profit margins collapsed. Conflicts erupted over scarce resources. In the midst of this chaos, humans watched quietly. No fleets moved. No threats were issued. No messages were sent. Humanity had not intervened, had not sabotaged, and had not forced the galaxy into submission. And yet, humanity's influence was undeniable. Every system failing, every colony struggling, every fleet in disarray, was a result of dependence on humans that had been ignored for too long. The whispers from Part 3 had grown into a murmur of fear, and the fear had evolved into outright panic. In one small council chamber on a border planet, An alien governor spoke directly to her staff. They didn't attack us, she said, shaking. They left us to ourselves. And we are failing everywhere. Another replied, do you mean, they are teaching us? Yes, she whispered. In silence. On Earth, President Reyes continued her quiet oversight. Human engineers optimized colony systems, expanded infrastructure, and taught no one outside Earth how to operate anything critical. Humanity thrived in peaceful efficiency, growing stronger while the rest of the galaxy struggled with the consequences of its own arrogance. The galaxy had wanted to remove humanity. They had imagined humiliation or retreat. They had expected weakness. Instead, they had created dependence and ignored it. And now they were paying the price. Even fleets that had once prided themselves on discipline began to break apart, not from attack but from failure. Generals and admirals watched helplessly as vital ships became stranded due to navigation failures. Communication networks collapsed mid-battle drills. Systems designed to prevent accidents failed in subtle ways that caused chaos. And through it all, humanity remained silent. No battle cries. No revenge. No threats. The galaxy was unraveling. Yet Earth flourished. Trade, research, energy production, and infrastructure ran smoother than ever. Colonies expanded. Cities grew. Technology advanced at a pace unseen by the outside universe. And in every action, every plan, every decision, humans moved calmly, deliberately, aware that their silent absence was shaping the galaxy far more powerfully than any war could. And the final truth became clear to anyone paying attention. Humanity had never needed to fight. The galaxy could crumble under the weight of its own mistakes. Humans simply watched, waited, and let it happen. Silent fury, without a single shot fired, had begun to reshape the stars. Silent fury, eternal lesson. Years passed. The galaxy had changed. Slowly, quietly, and irrevocably. Systems that had once relied on human ingenuity now struggled to maintain order. Trade networks failed. Defense grids faltered. Colonies argued over dwindling resources. Entire sectors teetered on the edge of chaos. Yet Earth remained untouched. Humanity had flourished in silence. Cities grew taller, faster, and cleaner than ever before. Technology advanced in leaps, undisturbed by external politics or conflict. Research labs achieved breakthroughs once thought impossible. Colonies expanded across star systems, each perfectly coordinated and fully sustainable. No war had been fought. No shots fired. No fleets deployed beyond what was necessary for their own growth. And yet, the galaxy trembled. Councillor Trelvik sat in his private quarters aboard the Central Council station. His claws hovered over the table as he stared at the latest reports. Every sector showed instability, failing grids, collapsing economies, exhausted fleets. They didn't attack, he muttered to himself. They didn't even move. And yet, they have done this. Another councillor, younger and less experienced, leaned forward. We removed them. They were supposed to be weak. And yet here we are. Entire sectors are in disorder. Humans, they never fought us. They just left us to ourselves. Trelvik's eyes narrowed. Silence, he said quietly. That was their weapon. Across the galaxy, alien leaders scrambled to fix what had been destabilized. Engineers worked around the clock, trying to rebuild systems they never truly understood. Traders attempted to restore lost supply lines. Military officers patched failing fleets. Every effort was met with subtle failure because the root of the problem was not broken technology, it was dependence. The galaxy had relied too heavily on humans. Humans had withdrawn. That was enough. On Earth, President Elena Reyes walked along the observation deck of the Central Command facility. She looked at the stars, calm as always. Beside her, her aide whispered, "The galaxy is suffering. Do we intervene?" Reyes shook her head. No. Let them understand the consequences of their own choices. No war. No threats. Only reflection. Humanity's silent fury was complete. They had not sought revenge. They had not attacked. They had only allowed the galaxy to feel the weight of neglect and reliance. Stories of Earth's quiet dominance spread. Alien historians documented the events carefully. They called it the era of absence. It was a term both admired and feared. Generations would speak of the time when humans did nothing, and yet, everything changed. Some aliens tried to replicate human systems. They studied old designs, tried to rebuild trade networks and defense grids. But the humans had always left subtle layers of complexity, foresight, and adaptability that no other species could fully understand. Every attempt ended in frustration. Even the council had learned humility. They realized that raw power, the fleets, the weapons, the numbers, meant little when measured against intelligence, patience, and strategy. A young diplomat from the Varan Empire once asked an elder counselor, "Why didn't they attack us? Why silence?" The elder paused and replied, "Because they never needed to. Strength is not in aggression. Strength is in knowing when not to fight." On Earth, human children played under the sunlight of cities powered by clean energy. Scientists worked tirelessly in labs that advanced medicine, technology, and exploration. Leaders made decisions with precision, foresight, and calm. The planet thrived without conflict, without chaos, without even recognition from those beyond its borders. And yet, the galaxy felt their influence everywhere. In the council chambers, reports of failing colonies were read aloud daily. Generals shook their heads at broken fleets. Traders cursed the loss of coordination. Governors tried desperately to maintain order. The lesson was clear: humans had never relied on intimidation or destruction. They relied on skill, patience, and subtle control. And when removed, the galaxy could not survive without them. Finally, a historian wrote in his records, "No war was declared. No goodbye was spoken. Humanity chose silence, and in that silence they reshaped the galaxy. They did not conquer through fire or fury. They conquered through absence, teaching a lesson no weapon could deliver. Underestimate humanity, and even in their quiet, you will fail." On Earth, President Reyes stood alone, looking at the stars. "They will remember," she whispered. "Not because we fought. Not because we threatened. But because we acted wisely, patiently, and quietly." And with that, humanity's silent fury had reached its conclusion. The galaxy had survived. But it had learned. Humans had not destroyed the galaxy. They had simply allowed it to face the consequences of its own choices. And in the quiet, calm, and ordered world of Earth, one truth remained: humanity's strength was eternal, not in violence but in wisdom. The galaxy would never forget the silence that changed everything.